Hello, I'm Nan Simonsen. I'm a nationally board certified health and wellness coach. I am an author. Just before turning 70 4 years ago, I wrote Aging Powerfully to celebrate turning 70. Isn't that interesting? Some people think, oh, don't talk about it. I'm 70. No, I had come to the conclusion that 70 was the beginning of another 1, 2, or 3 decades of life, which it was like giving me a whole new life because I had been a health and wellness coach with a lifestyle medical practice, and I'm still with them. We've changed our name to Blue Zones Health because we are licensed by Blue Zones Health to spread, or Blue Zones National, uh, to spread the word that we can, through lifestyle, um, live longer, stronger, and that's what I talk about in the book. Well, today, our title is What's Next? My New Normal After Rapid Recovery. And I'll back up for some of you that aren't familiar with what I'm referring to. I first of all want to welcome you. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're taking interest in my journey beyond my most excellent adventure. And that's what I called my 6 week Goodbye Lupus Rapid Recovery Group Experience. Dr. Brooke Goldner wrote Goodbye Lupus, and Goodbye Autoimmune is on a title. Goodbye Lupus Hello Delicious is on a title because she cured herself with food and lifestyle from 12 years of lupus that was so devastating. Lupus nephritis means her kidneys were involved, that she was told that she would have a shortened life, and it would be amended in lots and lots of ways because of this very critical illness. And one thing led to another after she met Thomas Tadlock and married him, and the lupus disappeared. And what they figured out was that the only thing she had changed was her diet. He had put her on a highly nutritious plan because she wanted to lose weight before the wedding. That worked. And they have refined that. And her Goodbye Lupus protocol, which is in the first book, is then enhanced by what she learned by working with groups. And it was that it's the food, but it's more than the food. It's the lifestyle, it's the mindset. And so I did that recovery group after 3 months prior, having done on my own everything I could learn from her book and her online presence, um, and gotten some really good results from that. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about, because last week, was it the week before, I had a podcast, um, uh, my most excellent adventure on a rapid recovery group, and that said a lot. And today I'm going to talk about how I'm transitioning from this intense healing protocol to long-term eating habits that I believe have been amended by my experience with this protocol and what I saw. And let me tell you what I saw, and it's in my video about the most excellent adventure. But if I had to encapsulate it, I would say that for 6 weeks, in a very transparent forum, because we were all on a private Facebook group, and everybody's logs, daily logs, how well we slept, where and how much pain we were in, whether or not we made our minimums on highly nourishing foods, whether or not we exceeded our maximums on fruit. This was high raw. Whether or not we deviated and went, planted face first in a bowl of ice cream, all of that was written down. And so everybody knew everybody's business. And once a week we got together as a group live on Zoom, and everybody there, and there were 60 of us, around 60, had a chance to express every fear or question or celebration uh, to Dr. Goldner, and Thomas was there as well. And they gave that person the time to talk about whatever it was they wanted to talk about as a personal coaching session. So you can imagine this took hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. On the last day, was it 8 hours, 7 or 8 hours to get through all of us who checked out. And the checkout was, this is how I showed up here with these maladies. This is what has been cured. This is my plan going forward. Those were the things we were to discuss. And there was no hiding. There was no falsifying the success that we heard or lack thereof, but everybody in that group saw remarkable change. How? Because we were all on a 6-week program of hypernourishing, the most nutritious foods we could get in abundance, in overabundance, so that whatever our body required, we would give it for a 6-week period in form of food, raw, uh, leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables, some fruit, and flax and chia seeds for omega-3 fatty acids or the oil, and a abundance. I will never be the same of water, because some people think that 64 ounces and they've nailed it. That's the minimum it takes for our body to process what's going on in there, and our brain to stay hydrated, etc. They are recommending 96 ounces or more. 96 ounces for a little person or more would be a gallon. Now, if a person's 6'9" or whatever, they're not saying, well, then you should have 2 gallons. It doesn't work quite that way. But that's what I learned, and that's what I saw, and what I concluded and still hold as truth is that with hypernourishment, omega-3 fatty acids, lots and lots of water, we can, to the best of our ability, except I'm leaving something out, and I'll get to that, heal ourselves. And our body wants to heal. Even Hippocrates said the body will heal itself if given what it needs. We're giving it what it needs. The body wants badly to heal. And there are things that cannot be healed, but most, 80% of what happens to people now are lifestyle related. And this takes lifestyle, because I've studied lifestyle as medicine now going on 7 years. I have eaten a whole food plant-based diet, and rather strictly, for 7 years, but there were some things that couldn't touch that this does. And that's things like autoimmune diseases. But even that took one more element, and that had to do with mindset. So I'll explain that to you in a minute. So yes, my outlook going forward has changed. This protocol has changed my life. But let me go back to the first round in September of 2024, September 2nd through 6 weeks, which was, I think, October 16th. I did the protocol as best I could, just by reading her books and using the recipe book, and listening to her question and answer sessions, everything on YouTube, all free. And apparently I did it well, because what I came to find out the second time is that the numbers that I ended with, the lab numbers, everything was high. My rheumatoid factor, my antibodies for thyroid antibodies, thyroglobulin, my SED rate, my sedimentary erythrocyte rate, or erythrocyte sedimentary rate, ESR, were really, really high. And by the time I finished that, and before I started that next protocol 3 months later, they had all come down, and they had all come down to what I thought was almost where I wanted them. Now, the sed rate was where I wanted it. Um, and I took the second, and I registered actually shortly thereafter, in October, actually. I registered for her next available rapid recovery group before she even had a date on it, but we knew it would be sometime in January. That one didn't change my physiology much because all my numbers basically stayed the same, except that my thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH, the higher that is, the more your thyroid is screaming, help, help, give me more stimulation, give me more thyroid, some T3, T4, um, had been high for a long, long time, and that has gone to normal, really solidly normal at 300. So my thyroid has healed um, in that way. But what I learned the second time around was why she wrote Goodbye Autoimmune Disease, because what she found is that we as human beings, different than animals, their bodies want to heal too, but they don't get in their own way because they don't have a psychology. Nah, some of us who have animals are sure they all have their own psychology, but truly they don't think the way we do. They don't muddy the waters with early childhood trauma. Now, maybe they do, they act it out. I have a cat that I'm sure acted out all of her early childhood traumas, found her at that size, 5 weeks old. But we do. We have all kinds of baggage that almost predicts how we're going to react to certain things and basically tells us, leads us in directions of behavior as it relates to food, as it relates to our needs for satisfaction and fulfillment. That's what she covered every single day, all day. We could jump on to our Facebook and find anywhere from 3 to 7 to 10 or more videos that we could play any given day that would have to do with where we were in this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks of recovery in her group. In that way, I will never be the same because I've learned, and the my most excellent adventure video, and I'll post it on this the description here, addresses those things. And what I learned has changed my life. And I've heard from person after person, and that's such a dramatic and sometimes hyperbolic statement. Oh, it's changed my life. Well, if it really has, I think stop right now. I'll stop right now and ask you a question. Who in your life has changed your life? Sometimes it's a very quick interaction or encounter that changes our life. It truly does. Well, this 6 week program has given me a new way of reacting to things that happen. I see it even in my relationship with my husband. Um, think of your relationships with anybody where you get triggered by a thing or lots and lots of things. Those same triggers are leaving me in a different place than they did before I started this, and in a better place. Um, Not that he deserved it. Never mind. Uh, but that we respond to things based on the way we interpret them, regardless of what was meant coming our way. So that is what I got from the protocol that is hard to quantify. So I'll talk about the food and basically lifestyle more than that. So I'm in a phase called step down, and step down means I'm no longer hyper nourishing with those 3 requirements: the amount of deep leafy greens all raw, the omega-3 fatty acids, and the water. Um, I'm not, and there were lifestyle things that were required that we put on our log, and those things had minimums, 7 to 8 hours of sleep every day, and oh, a number of things. Um, my point being that step down means that we're no longer beholding even to a log sheet. That would be up to us to keep it going. And that we have the freedom to do anything we want with the protocol. The step down that she encourages is to continue to hypernourish. Back to her story, she was healed of lupus completely to the degree that she could have babies that didn't then recreate those symptoms and those antibodies, to having a recent, within a year, tragedy in her life that didn't recreate out of this intense emotion a reaction to going back to lupus. She is healed of this disease because of food and lifestyle. She recommends, because this is what she has continued to do, that we continue to hypernourish. And the translation of that is those greens, those omega-3s, the water behind that, and that maximum of fruit. The fruit actually has a lot to do with the realization that she could get people sometimes to eat 1.5 pounds of deep leafy green cruciferous, all raw vegetables, no grains, no legumes. But some people just couldn't stomach it. They could, if they could take that, let's say 1 pound, throw it in a blender, put in enough fruit. That's where the restriction on the fruit, put in enough fruit to sweeten the pot, and then blend it into a blender and then drink that during the day. And that's what I have done since September 2nd. I haven't stopped hypernourishing. And I'll say to you what I have said again and again, and what she says every time. Why would I? Why would I stop having the foods that are curative of anything, most nutritious foods that our body can have, proven to be the highest in nourishment per calorie, caloric density? Why would I not continue to do that if there's no reason to stop? There's no reason for me not to throw those into a blender, make a smoothie, and walk around drinking, well, 3 containers of this smoothie, because it takes that much for 1 pound of vegetables, with 1 pound of fruit as well, because that's what, anyway, I won't get into that. Just watch another one of the videos. But in other words, why would I stop that part of hypernourishing? So what's the rest of the step down? Once we've had our at least 1.5 pounds of deep leafy greens, cruciferous, etc., in the smoothie, or just eating it, and unlimited avocado, so you can make guacamole and dip those vegetables, then we can fill ourselves with any amount we want of other hot or cold foods. We can have our baked potatoes and our quinoa and our chickpea stews. I'll be posting a recipe for a chickpea stew later this week that is to die for. It's so good. And it was a delight to have that. But you know what? I had a lot less of that than I would have. That's healthy, but it's not curative, it's not healing. So I had less of that, and a plate of, well, a crudité plate with the cruciferous and greens like the cauliflower, broccoli, and radishes, and then other vegetables. And I would dip that, have my guacamole, and eat my soup. So that has changed. I'm looking more at food as a vehicle for nutrition, not just set to satisfy hungers other than physical hunger, and I'll mention that in a minute. So I am continuing the hypernourishment in that way. I'm eating the cooked vegetables. I'm looking at more options for raw food. I'm very interested in having more dehydrated wraps. And if it's dehydrated under 118 degrees, like 115, which is what my dehydrator ratchets to, between 110 to 115 to 120. It doesn't have a 118 setting. I'll do more wraps because those are considered raw. In other words, I'm looking at food, as I said, for its nutritional value, not just for the high it gives. And then I'm looking more at self-care and lifestyle options for the high. Some people, a lot of us, myself included, I'm Italian, both sides, and my family celebrated everything with food, ate food for everything. Everybody within the family was overweight and nobody cared because it was an ends to a means. And it was, I call it a sort of free-for-all. But I am now, and we were taught to during her protocol, to look at things that make us happy beyond food, so that when we are sad, when we're excited, when we're celebratory, when we are anxious, when we're lonely, when we are frightened, we don't turn to food. I don't know if you can hear my cat in the background. She has a little toy and walks around with it howling. And that's what she's doing right now. I think maybe Zoom has blocked it out. And so I have learned to do that. The other day I was a bit stressed, and instead of, well, I don't even think of eating like that anymore. I was bulimic for almost 50 years of my, more than 50 years of my life. That ended more than 7 years ago. So I know binging and I know stress eating. I know eating for every reason under the sun. Don't do that anymore. And I like it better. But I was kind of stressed. I was putting a lot on my plate, and it was going on day after day, and I was just feeling depleted. That's a good word, depleted. And you know what I did? I picked up the phone, called a local place and said, "Can you do a massage today at 3?" And they were able to take me in, and that's what I needed. And if that wasn't available, I would have finally just put everything down as if I had that appointment, gone up to my rocking chair in my bedroom that I call the bird's nest because it's up in the trees. And I would have put my feet up and I would have just put my head back with a cup of tea. That's it. So we've learned those things, and that's new. That's nice. I like that. Even with whole food plant-based, I may have decided, oh, well, then I'll just do a cup of cacao and, a muffin. And no, I didn't even want to do those things, even though that's not the end of the world. So I'm not judging. So now it's a hot bath, or it's a massage, or it's feet up with a cup of tea, or it's a walk, or it's a ride on my bike. I have come to see those things differently. Some of you are relating to this because you are currently, and I get a lot of comments this way, either in the program, self-led, or you'll be, or have been, part of her rapid recovery groups. The next one begins March 24th. 24th or 28th? I believe it's 24th. And if you said, okay, ma'am, what would you recommend now, having done this twice, once on my own and once with her? I'd say be kind to yourself. I could say low and slow. She actually gives us the first week to kind of get used to the process and then be on the mark after that. But even then, on the mark includes if there's a slip and a fall, she says, fine, it's okay. Just get up immediately and go back to the process. In other words, don't say, that famous line. That was the famous thing I always did. Oh no, I ate too much. I might as well go all the way. Instead of ate too much, stop now. All right. Get back on now. Um, so keeping an eye on nutritional density, I would say learn to do that. There is something that Dr. Joel Fuhrman offers called the Andy score. Um, I make a copy and keep it right by me. And ANDI stands for Aggregate Nutrient Density Index. And it has the most nutritious foods. Oh, it has, forget the most. It has numbered foods that are by nutritional density per calorie. The number one food is kale, number one. And it goes on and on. And in the first column, you have all of these foods that we're quite aware of. They're all vegetables. Um, oh, well, strawberries come in there as a fruit and blueberries, but the rest are vegetables. And you don't even get to the protein foods until you get to tofu on the second column, but that's not the point. Something like this can perhaps help you understand that if we have control over our health, and this is again what I learned and am have has become a part of me, that if indeed our body will heal itself, and if indeed I have control over what I think, what I do, and what I put in my mouth, what's on the end of my fork, why wouldn't I? Most of the time, if not always, most of the time, even I'm interrupting that sentence, but I'll say it, even Dr. Goldner says from time to time, she says, after step down or after maintenance, twice a month, have recreational food, have a drink, have a dessert that's, what you wouldn't have. So in other words, perfection isn't what we're aiming for, but why wouldn't one look at foods more often in terms of what they can do for your body? Because I'll tell you something, we neuroadapt and fall in love with what we get used to. People shoot themselves in the foot by saying, well, then I'll treat myself to a da-da-da, which quite often just sets them up to want that da-da-da more often. And an example would be an apple fritter as opposed to an apple. If I have an apple fritter, that apple tastes like sawdust. If I don't have an apple fritter, but apples are what I crave because that's where I get my sweet and my crunch and my fragrance and the feel of holding something that was just pulled off a tree, then the apple becomes the thing that you crave. I learned that with radishes. I was just telling some people recently, actually today in my earlier group with the clinic, that I did a 5-day water fast, nothing but water. And my husband was eating a radish and it was crunchy and I craved that radish. I wanted it so badly that it's left me with a ridiculous fondness of radishes. I can't get enough of them because it looked so good and I find them to be absolutely delicious. That's my point. A radish, a lowly radish. Okay. There's so I would say look at nutritional density. I'd also say don't rush normal. In other words, don't think that when we look around us, and this is so important, at our society and judge our restriction based on this logic, comparing it to what we see around us. Speaking of a free fall, speaking of a free for all, our society has just, we've fallen victim to money interests and the money interests that manufacture our food, that feed us at restaurants, and as well as fast food restaurants, don't care at all about our health. They put together things that aren't even food products, make them delicious, serve them. We get hooked on them, and we eat them as if there's no consequence. Um, that makes me really sad. So don't get too hung up on wanting to be like everybody else, because you'll start looking like everybody else in our country. We're now what, 75% overweight and not much less than that obese. And there are consequences for that. There are consequences, health-wise, and they can't be ignored. Um, so a critical addition to what I learned, and it was just brought home to me again in a podcast I was listening to, um, orthopedic surgeon, a woman who spent 8 years. It was with Mel Robbins and an orthopedic surgeon talking about the importance of exercise. She was, she is a orthopedic surgeon, spent 8 years as a oncology nurse, helping administer at bedside in hospitals chemotherapy. And quite often the treatment was for 6 to 8 or 9 hours. And she said, I saw a lot of people struggle, would do anything if they could have their health back. I saw a lot of people die. And she said, one thing I know, having gone from that realm now into orthopedics, is that the way we strengthen our body and our mind is with our movement, with our behavior. And Dr. Goldner says this again and again. All of this that I'm teaching you is important, but you've got to move your body, and you have to do it well and hard and use resistance. That strength training will build our muscles, will build our bones. When we get to a weight we can do easily, then kick it up a notch. Walking is great until walking becomes easy, then put in some additional steps or high kicks or something. In other words, continue to stress our body with resistance. And that's part of what I've taken away from this to an even greater degree than I was doing it before, because we can't live long and strong. Aging powerfully, looked at my book, not unless I keep my muscles strong, and they won't happen at 74. They're going downhill by 1% a year, osteopenia. I will do everything I can to prevent that by continuing to work on my muscles. There is a app, I'll just say this to you, I talked to the morning group about it, and there are lots of them, but one that I found that's really easy is called HasFit, H-A-S, heart and soul, H-A-S, Fit, F-I-T, Heart and Soul Fit, S-A-S, Fit. It's an app. It's also a YouTube channel, so you can just go to YouTube and put in HasFit. I use the app because then I have a program, and that program is a 30-day program that I click off each of the progressively harder workouts to continue to get me stronger. It's a husband who is a physical therapist, certified physical therapist, and a wife, and they show the harder and then the easier version of exercise. And quite frankly, when I don't even feel like it, I'll go into the garage, which is a music room, which is also a workout room, and I'll just put on the next one. The last one I did was 40 minutes. And at first I thought, well, it didn't even matter what I thought. I just said it was on the queue. I went ahead and pushed that one. 40 minutes, I'll give it 40 minutes. It was a kicker. But because someone's walking one through it, and the weights we're choosing, we're getting stronger and stronger with, I was able to do things I couldn't do about a month ago. I saw the difference in the strength of my legs in 1 month, and that's what I'm trying to do. Okay, so that's the other thing that is the new normal. So what is my next step? Well, I'm auditing, that's what they call it, for half price of the full Goodbye Lupus rapid recovery. I'm auditing where I won't be in the discussions per se, and I won't be asking for live coaching, but I'm going to drop in and be back in that space, because I don't want to lose what I've gained, and I want to hear it again and again because I think she's got something there as proof of what I saw and what I heard. And so I'll be auditing the group on March 24th. I will continue the hypernourishment. I'm enjoying my um, my soups and my stews, and I've learned to um, work this out as it relates to social pressures, as it relates to restaurant ordering. I learned all of that the first time around, and I believe I talk about that in the videos that relate to my movement through these protocols, which I've kept going, the videos which I've kept going on YouTube and my channel, Nan Simonsen. Um, and I will continue to learn more and more ways to nourish myself with everything other than just food. And that one gets from her just by hearing her speak. No, no, no. You can be happy by playing games, watching a movie, um, having conversations with friends, going out to lunch, knowing what you're going to have, uh, planning in advance. I've traveled out of the country. I've traveled out of the state. I've been gone for 2 weeks at a time, all of that on the protocol, and was able to do it. And now I know I can do that, and I don't need to be doing what everybody around me is doing, even though it looks good. Um, there are repercussions. So, in a brief overview, I'll give you a few of those changes. For example, what I eat in a day, it used to be oatmeal, and it used to be berries in the oatmeal and nuts on the oatmeal. I'm now doing a smoothie. So, in other words, my smoothie is anywhere from 13 to 16 ounces of the greens. If I put 13, 14, 15 ounces of greens, I can put 13, 14, 15 ounces of of fruit. That's what I was talking about before. Just because they're so heavy and dense, that the rule of the smoothie is 75% of your vegetables, your greens, and 25% of fruit for flavoring. It just works out that if you have a pound of greens, a pound of veggies will, or less, will do the trick in sweetening it, and you're not exceeding what would be recommended. And I just still do that, the half a cup of flax chia mix. I continue to do that. For lunch, I usually like a salad. I love my chopped salads with red cabbage and arugula and kale as the base. Oh, and shredded carrot in there, all chopped, chopped, chopped. And then a bunch of chopped up vegetables. But now I can add my dry roasted edamame. I can add cubed tofu. I can add chickpeas as a addition on that. And I've been doing that for dinner. I'm now doing what I've been, well, quite frankly, envious of, and that is I'm now having the soups and the stews and the lentils and the pastas that I was serving Tim both the first and the second 6 week period while I was having my raw. Now I'm having a little bit of that plus some raw greens or raw cruciferous, and I'm really, really enjoying the food. There is no feeling of deprivation. I just did a video yesterday was it, on the sweets that I'm really enjoying that are part of her Goodbye Lupus, Hello Delicious book. I just had a little jar of cacao or chocolate chia pudding before I came in here after my salad. Man, was that good. Um, what do I do in a day for health and mindset? Regardless of the day, even in a light rain, I'll either go on a walk, or one of my preferred ways of movement is getting on my bike and riding down our Santa Ana River Trail, um, along a river bottom trail, or around a couple of parks, one with all kinds of waterfowl, and the other one doesn't have a water feature, doesn't have lakes, but it's just an easy ride. I'll do 30 minutes, I'll do 45. That for me feels good. Or I'll go into the music room and I'll hit my HasFit mat app, and I'll do a 20, 30, or 40-minute workout with that, because at least twice a week, that's my rule, at least twice a week I have to do that. And then what do I do for my mind to keep myself feeling a sense of equanimity? I am journaling now as if I was in the group, but not with all that detail. I'm still writing out what I do in a day, what I'm grateful for, what I feel proud of that I accomplished. Um, I'm still meditating. I have a 12-minute meditation on a meditation app, Satanama, which is Kriya Kirsten meditation, Christian meditation, Kriya Kirsten. I'll look that up, because when people ask, well, it'll save you having to ask me. But it's right there on my channel, and it comes up as soon as I open it up. Oh, Kirtan Kriya, Kirtan, Kirtan Kriya, Kriya, and it's a chant of Satanama while we're doing it. It's a little more complicated than that, but not complicated at all. And that settles me. In the evening, even when I don't feel like doing it, it settles me. Any kind of meditation will train your brain to stop the hamster wheel, which is really important, or our brain thinks that it's in control rather than our giving it a chance to stop the rumination and follow along with our direction. It's exercise for the brain, but a very calming sort of exercise. And so that's kind of the changes that I've had. And I'm going to say transitions aren't always easy. I'm saying all of this in past tense, feeling not smug, but grateful, because it's so easy now. Man, it wasn't so easy the first 6 weeks. And the second time, it was like walking on glass sometimes, even though I had the food nailed. Man, oh man, the emotional stuff it brought up that I didn't even know was there was startling. Um, I'll ask you, because some of you have no interest in anything like this. You don't need it. You don't want it. Um, what is your health journey? What are your health desires? Where do you want to be next year, health-wise? 5 years from now, 10 years from now? I'm looking out 10, 20, and 30 years. I better get something right now, or I won't have even 20 years. I still may not. I don't know. But if I think it, if I plan it, aren't I going to do what it's going to take to make that work and not be in a bed being cared for by somebody else? Sure, I am. That's why having these thoughts, where are you going to be next year, 5 years, 10 years? Let it keep going. Why not think of 100 or over if you can do it well? I had a friend just pass away a few months ago at 106. She loved every one of those years, maybe until the last one. And shortly before she died, she had a stroke. But other than that, she was having a ball. Why not? And then finally, I'll read my last paragraph to you. Food truly is medicine. I'm excited to keep sharing what this new journey will look like as it evolves. I hope that as it transpires and I explore what works best and what doesn't, that you'll be along with me on that part of the journey as well. I also hope that whatever you decide for yourself has in some way been inspired by what I've shared, and I very much thank you for caring enough to have come along with me. And I'll invite you to respond with comments that let me know what your journey has been, where you are in your evolution health-wise, and ask me any questions that you may have. And I thank you for your time. Please subscribe and give me a thumbs up and share, because it helps us be heard, and that's the goal. And I want to say have a great day, because I know I'm going to. Bye-bye. Oops. There.